The fundamental problem is reconciling two conflicting imperatives, Dr. Zhang explains. Maritime shipping requires unobstructed passage, while a fixed crossing inherently creates obstructions. Gibraltar magnifies this tension to an extraordinary degree. Captain Morales offers a final perspective as we conclude our tour. Many people think the main challenge is the geology or the depth, but the shipping activity might be the most constraining factor. You can engineer around natural forces with enough resources, but you can't pause global commerce. The world economy depends on this waterway remaining open every single day. The control room screens continue tracking vessels from every corner of the world as they converge on this crucial passage, all threading through a maritime needle that has remained uncrossed despite centuries
Beyond
of
the
human
waves
ambition.
in
Shipping lanes lies a challenge no engineer can solve with steel or concrete. The Gibraltar Strait sits at the intersection of two continents, three nations with competing territorial claims and centuries of tension. How do you build a bridge when nobody can agree on who owns the water beneath it? Satellite imagery reveals a peculiar patchwork of jurisdictions across this narrow waterway. The northern coastline belongs to Spain, except for a small peninsula at the eastern entrance. The southern shore falls under Moroccan sovereignty, with one notable exception, a Spanish-controlled enclave on African soil, and between them, the strategic Rock of Gibraltar stands as British territory, creating a three-way jurisdictional puzzle resembling a geopolitical jigsaw with deliberately mismatched pieces. In his office at the Mediterranean Institute for Strategic Studies, Dr. Hossein El-Fassi unfolds a detailed map across his desk. The geopolitical analyst traces his finger along the colorful lines demarcating territorial waters and exclusive economic zones. What we're looking at, Dr. El-Fassi explains, is arguably the world's most geopolitically contested choke point. Any infrastructure connecting these shores must navigate water and a complex web of sovereignty disputes dating back centuries. The historical context is crucial to understanding why this narrow passage remains unbridged. Spain has controlled its northern shore since antiquity, while Morocco gained independence and sovereignty over the southern coast in 1956. Britain has maintained control over Gibraltar since 1713 through the Treaty of Utrecht, creating a permanent point of contention. Ceuta, a Spanish autonomous city on the African continent, sits directly across from Gibraltar. This 18.5 square kilometer enclave has been under Spanish control since 1580. Morocco has consistently claimed Ceuta as rightfully its territory, viewing it as a colonial remnant that should be returned. Dr. El-Fassi points to a visualization showing the overlapping claims. Spain wishes to maintain sovereignty over Ceuta, while simultaneously seeking to regain control of Gibraltar from Britain. Morocco wants Ceuta integrated into its territory. Meanwhile, Britain has repeatedly affirmed its commitment to Gibraltar's status, with 98% of Gibraltar's residents voting to remain British in a 2002 referendum. These competing claims create an extraordinary diplomatic challenge. Every beam, bolt, and blueprint of a potential crossing must navigate not just the physical strait but centuries of entrenched national pride and historical grievances. Engineers need clarity on fundamental questions. Which nation's construction standards apply? Whose courts resolve disputes? Which country's workers will build each section? Who controls security and border operations? Consider this, Dr. El-Fassi continues, gesturing to a point midway across the strait. Who has jurisdiction over this exact location? Spain claims territorial waters extending 12 nautical miles from its coast. Morocco makes similar claims from its shores. There are areas of overlap where both nations claim sovereignty over the same patch of seabed. Archival footage shows various diplomatic meetings between Spanish and Moroccan officials dating back to the 1970s. In 1979, King Hassan II of Morocco and King Juan Carlos I of Spain first discussed the possibility of a fixed link. The idea resurfaced periodically over subsequent decades, with memorandums of understanding signed in 1980, 1989, 2003, and 2012. Yet these discussions consistently faltered over questions of sovereignty. Points of contention included whether the connection would link to Gibraltar or bypass it entirely, whether construction would acknowledge Moroccan claims to Ceuta, and how border controls would function at either end. The diplomatic file on the Gibraltar crossing is among the thickest in both Spanish and Moroccan foreign ministries, notes Dr. El Fassi. For over 4 decades, committees have met, studies have been commissioned, and announcements have been made. Yet progress inevitably stalls when sovereignty questions arise. A particularly illustrative example occurred in 2007, when a joint Spanish-Moroccan committee reached technical agreement on a tunnel route, only for the project to collapse when diplomatic tensions flared over a Spanish royal visit to Ceuta, a visit Morocco condemned as an infringement on its territorial integrity. The waters themselves pose additional jurisdictional challenges. Under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, the strait constitutes an international waterway with guaranteed freedom of navigation. Any bridge or tunnel would need to preserve these international transit rights while somehow resolving the overlapping national claims. This project requires synchronized approval and ongoing cooperation from nations with fundamentally opposed territorial ambitions. Dr. El Fassi explains while examining detailed charts. Spain cannot proceed without Morocco, and neither can act without addressing British interests in Gibraltar. Security considerations further complicate matters. The strait serves as both a military strategic point and a major migration route between Africa and Europe. Spanish and Moroccan naval forces currently patrol their respective territorial waters, while British Gibraltar maintains its own security perimeter. Recent diplomatic tensions between Spain and Morocco over migration policies have further illustrated the fragility of relations across the strait. In 2021, Morocco temporarily relaxed border controls, allowing thousands of migrants to enter Ceuta, in what many analysts viewed as leverage in territorial disputes. The project would require international cooperation on a scale rarely achieved. The Øresund Bridge between Denmark and Sweden connected 2 nations with amicable relations and no territorial disputes. Even the Channel Tunnel between France and the UK involved just 2 countries with clearly defined territorial waters. The Gibraltar crossing would require 3 nations with actively conflicting territorial claims to not only agree on a single plan, but to maintain that agreement through years of construction and decades of operation, says Dr. El Fassi. This diplomatic challenge equals the engineering obstacles. Dr. El Fassi unfolds a final map showing proposed routes for a tunnel connection. The most technically feasible path would connect Punta Paloma in Spain with Malabeta Point near Tangier in Morocco. This route would bypass Gibraltar entirely, avoiding one set of sovereignty complications but still requiring Spanish-Moroccan agreement on construction and operation. The strait's status as the world's most geopolitically contested choke point means that diplomatic hurdles are equally as significant as the engineering challenges, Dr. El Fassi concludes. Any successful crossing would represent a triumph of engineering and a diplomatic breakthrough resolving centuries of territorial disputes.